So, the case we're speaking on today is the case of Barbara Cotton. Before we get into this, all the links I used for research will be down below, as well the link to my other podcast, Sinister, in case you would like to check that out. Also with this case, the details are a bit muddy. There's not a whole lot of information out there, but also a lot of unconfirmed or unverified information. So things like timelines might seem a little off. Details may seem a little off. And I'm going to try to explain it to you in a way that makes as much sense as possible. I got a lot of my information from an article, and some of the stuff I cut out because I didn't really see how it made any difference to the case. But just in case, it's going to be one of the links down below. I think it's probably one of the first ones. That way you can just read it in whole and you can take whatever you want from it. That all being said, I'm going to try to piece this together as much as I possibly can, because when I was doing this case, I had to stop several times because I was getting confused. I had no idea what was going on. I kept having to go from article to article to see if I missed something somewhere, and there's just a lot of different versions of events. There's a lot of unconfirmed things. So I'm going to do my best. So I apologize, but with that being said, let's go ahead and get into this. So Barbara Louise Cotton was born on November 10th, 1965, in Tioga, North Dakota, to Louise and John Cotton. So there is a 19-year difference between their oldest child and youngest, and Barbara was the seventh of 8 children. Barbara went by Barb to people who knew her. When she was 7 years old, her parents divorced, and Louise moved to Williston, North Dakota, with her 3 youngest children. Her brother Kent was a year older, and her sister Kathy was 2 years younger. So it was Kathy, Kent, and Barbara that went with their mother. The other kids were older, and they were adults by this point, so they were already living on their own. As a single mom, Louise had to work a lot of different jobs just to make ends meet, and there wasn't much money left over after bills, but Louise was the kind of mom that she always made sure that she kept her children fed, they always had a roof over their head, and they were just well taken care of. Fast forward to 1981. Here is the most common version that I could put together of the last time anyone saw Barbara, who was now 15 at this point. She was last seen on April 11th, 1981, after having dinner with her boyfriend and another friend in downtown Williston. After dinner, her boyfriend offered to walk her home, but she declined. From the corner that the Plainsman Hotel occupied, her boyfriend said that he watched her walk into Recreation Park, and she was never seen or heard from again. That scenario is based off of police reports made by Louise. Recreation Park was about 5 blocks away from her home. She did not take her clothes, her eyeglasses, cigarettes, money, or any other personal belongings when she disappeared. She also left behind a paycheck from work. And 40 years later, no remains have even been found, no arrests have been made in the connection to her case. From there, that is the most basic, bare bones that I can give you. From here, things get really confusing. Things start to get a little twisted, a little weird, and I apologize. That is the most basic version of the story. Let's just get into this. So the people who should have been questioned after she disappeared apparently never were. There doesn't seem to be any records regarding them as being questioned, and the worst part is that many of them have since passed away, which includes 2 of the 3 people that Williston police publicly named persons of interest. So the police work just wasn't the best in this case. And even at the time, their investigation skills just weren't good. But one of the individuals that was a person of interest is the boyfriend. But the thing is, her close friends don't recall her as having one, and only Louise recalls knowing this boyfriend even existed. Louise says in her call to police on April 12th that she last saw her daughter with a new boyfriend named Stacy Werder. It's believed that he left Williston for Montana within a day or two of her disappearance. What we know about him is that he used to wash dishes at Cakes and Cones. He was born October 5th, 1959 in uh, Eureka, California, I believe is how it's pronounced. Described as a nice guy by classmates, but could be extremely violent. He attacked members of his own family, and it's believed he was trying to kill in those situations. When he would get really extremely, really violent, it's believed that he was actually trying to kill people. He was in the Navy in 1980, but was discharged after diagnosed with schizophrenia. One of the last times he was home, Stacy nearly strangled his dad to death with an extension cord. He was told to leave and never come back. So he left. Louise called police on April 13th, 1981 to tell them she thought Barbara could be with Stacy in Scobie, Montana at Pioneer Hotel in room 205, but police received word that she was not there, and we actually don't even know if Stacy was in Scobie at this time. So a lot of the information is coming from Louise, it seems. But Louise also says that she came home from work around 11 p.m. and talked to Barbara, who said that she was going to a party at 18th Street Apartments. And Louise had the host's phone number and called several times, asking if they remembered anything after she had gone disappeared. And it was a woman and her sister, and they said that they did recall Barb being at the party, but they're not sure if it was the night she disappeared, the party being the night she disappeared. But she did allegedly go to this party and was seen with a guy, believed to be Stacy. One remembers Barb leaving with him, and he returned later, but he was alone. She said that she asked him where Barb went, and he said that she got a ride, and he didn't elaborate. But the other sister said that she was told the next day that Stacy showed up and demanded to know where Barbara was. Louise would call Barb's friend Sandy and asked if she knew where Barb was, and she hadn't been with Barb, and Sandy found it odd that Louise was even asking. Barb and Sandy were once really good friends until Sandy went to high school, and they didn't spend that much time together anymore. And she claims that Louise knew this, that they weren't that close. Sandy had been roller skating that night and then walked home after midnight, but she said that she did recall having this eerie feeling that something wasn't right. So, Sandy's mom and Louise were good friends, and Sandy remembers Louise talking about Barb's disappearance. Louise apparently attended dinner with Barb and Stacy, and Louise was really happy that it went well. Her and Barb hadn't been getting along that well lately, and she was just happy that everything had gone well that night. I can't remember exactly the reason why, or the reason that was given that they weren't getting along. I believe it had just had something to do with school. But supposedly she went to dinner the night that her daughter went missing and had dinner with them, which is weird because she said she got off work at 11 p.m. or saw her daughter around 11 p.m. Diane, another friend, believes that Barb didn't run away. She admits the week Barb went missing, they weren't talking as much, but she believes that Barb would have told her if she had a boyfriend, and she never even heard of Stacy. There is very little documentation about any investigations that police conducted, and much of it was information from Louise, which made many suspect that Louise probably investigated this mostly herself. Louise called Cynthia, Stacy's mom, on a few occasions, and Stacy's sisters said that they believed that he did have something to do with it. But police never reached out to speak to Stacy's family at all, ever. They never bothered to speak to Stacy's family. Stacy would unfortunately commit suicide in 1981. There were supposedly two other suspects named Frank and another man, which I was not able to find a name, But one article stated this, so I'm only taking that with a grain of salt because I only saw this Frank person named one time. That being said, we have a shoddy investigation, no real clear answers about that night, and we might never have them. Because this is all I have for you. And you're probably sitting here thinking, I don't know what you even just told me, because I don't even know. So, it's, 1981, Barbara goes missing. It's also the same year that Stacy commits suicide. His sisters believe that he did have something to do with it. People recall seeing them together at this party, but not remembering if this party was the night she disappeared. I feel like Louise was a little weird. I don't feel like she was giving an accurate explanation of that night, because she's saying she got home off work, saw her daughter around 11 p.m., but she supposedly also had dinner with Stacy and Barbara. And she also, there was at one point she claimed that she really didn't see her daughter at all that night before she left. So it's kind of like she did not give a straight answer, and that could just be, bad recordings of what she said. It could just be, articles being spreading misinformation. But that being said, I don't feel like we actually know a proper last witness testimony. That first part that I gave you, the basic bare bones, is from police records. But a lot of police records are also from what Louise tells them. So I feel like maybe Louise accidentally warped some of the story, and we have all this information that may or may not be true. And I feel like the police just not doing a good job in their investigation as well also warped a lot of this. And for that reason, I think it's going to be really hard to even solve this case, because I don't even know where I would even possibly begin to try to even start with it. If Stacy was truly her boyfriend, if she really was with him that night, I think it would make sense that he could have something to do with it. I think it would make sense because people were like, he's a nice guy, but he has a tendency to be violent. His own sisters believe that he could have done it. People at the party were saying he left with her and then he came back alone. Like, there is a chance that I think he could have something to do with it, and in my opinion, he seems the most likely, just because we don't really know a whole lot about this Frank guy or this other unnamed person. But with that being said, I hope I didn't confuse you too much. I'm so sorry. This was literally the best way I could lay it out for you. Like I said, a lot of this is from Louise's point of view, or from what she's gathered somehow. So I don't even know what we could even I feel like most of it we just have to take at face value. And that's the best we got. But with that being said, I do hope that the case of Barbara Cotton can be solved one day. Let me know your guys' thoughts down below, like always, and I will speak to you guys very soon. Bye, guys.